Hello, it's Wednesday, June the 10th. Welcome to our time in the Psalms on Wednesday. I want to let you know right up front, next week we're going to be doing something a little different. Instead of a pre-recorded uh, class, what I'm going to do is at 6:30 have a Zoom class. The idea is that we can be more interactive, more people can join in. We will be recording that. It will not be live streamed, but we will be recording. And then after the class is finished, that recording will be posted to YouTube. So if you're not able to activate Zoom and be with us at 6:30, you can wait till it's posted onto YouTube. Today we're going to do Psalm 88. So if you like following along, give you a moment to get there in your text. And I'll just tell you up front today, Psalm 88 is considered maybe one of the saddest Psalms. Oftentimes even the Psalms of lament will give a lot of hope. This Psalm, not as much, but I think hope is present. And outside the first few lines, there's going to be a lot of emotion. And I like that, watching things around us. I'm glad we have these Psalms and all of the Psalms that we have that help us express a full range of emotion. Grief, sadness, those are all part of being human, and we need to be able to hold them. But oftentimes we just want to push them away and not learn or gain the things that we need from those strong emotions. And so these ancient church songs bring us, like our songs often do, bring us a range of emotion to express. So if you're ready, let's dive into Psalm 88. I'm going to start with the first two verses. Lord, you are the God who saves me. Day and night I cry out to you. May my prayer come before you. Turn your ear to my cry. Now, I'm not sure what you hear in that, but in this lament, I hear it being said in trust and faith in God. And just the same, this writer feels the freedom to pour his soul out to God. To me, that's a comforting thing. So let's continue in verse 3, and we will see what is particularly bothering the writer. I am overwhelmed with troubles, and my life draws near to death. I am counted among those who go down to the pit. I am like one without strength. I am set apart with the dead, like the slain who lie in the grave, whom you remember no more, who are cut off from your care. You have put me in the lowest pit, in the darkest depths. Your wrath lies heavily on me. You have overwhelmed me with all your waves. You have taken from me my closest friends and have made me repulsive to them. I am confined and cannot escape. My eyes are dim with grief. I call to you, Lord, every day. I spread out my hands to you. So let's pause right there. Obviously, the writer has some kind of ailment. We don't know exactly what it is. Some have suggested maybe something like leprosy, which would have caused him to be isolated and put out of the community. And so you also would affect the health and perhaps leading towards death. But here's what's obvious. He is isolated and alone and experiencing the hurt and the grief. He says, my eyes are dim with grief. To me, that says tears. But yet, notice what he continues to do. He calls to the Lord. So even in his suffering, God is there with him. Just a couple weeks ago on Sunday, we talked about John 11, where it says that Jesus wept. And again, I think the Bible comes back to emotions, part of our experience, part of what Christ experienced when he was among us in a physical form, and something that's natural for us to do when times are hard and struggles are real. So let's pick up in verse 10 and continue to read. Do you show your wonders to the dead? Do their spirits rise up and praise you? Is your love declared in the grave, your faithfulness in destruction? Are your wonders known in the place of darkness? Or your righteous deeds in the land of oblivion? But I cry to you for help, Lord. In the morning my prayer comes before you. Why, Lord, do you reject me and hide your face from me? From my youth I have suffered and been close to death. I have borne your terrors and am in despair. Your wrath has swept over me. Your terrors have destroyed me. All day long they surround me like a flood. They have completely engulfed me. You have taken away my friend and neighbor. Darkness is my closest friend. And with that, this psalm closes with darkness being his only friend, or at least his closest friend. And we don't like that. We want to push that away. We certainly at times have experienced suffering that comes from affliction, some more than others. Some of you have been close to death, wondering what's going to become of your health. And certainly this writer is experiencing that. So if you've experienced that, you have some solidarity with what this person is experiencing. The fact that we often look at our life and measure our life when times seem bleak and dark. But there is light here. Even in the darkness, even in the isolation, he is not alone or abandoned. So he may be experiencing sadness, but at the same time, he has comfort. And until we can sit with that and acknowledge that, and actually even hold that, to deepen our experience, we cut short our faith. I think modern Christians sometimes, our faith often struggles with this ancient question, because we think if we have faith, we should be happy, right? It's good news, it's the gospel. And then you bring in this idea that we often fall prey to: good things happen to good people and bad things should happen to bad people. And so when what we call bad things happen to good people, we have a crisis of faith. But here's what I want to say today. We miss a witness of a strong faith that even in the midst of struggle and pain and grief, staying connected and being connected to God, to me, is a more real faith, because that is the things of life. I reflected on a time where I had my youth group and we were around a campfire at the end of a retreat, and something was off, and a few kids were trying to sing all the goofy, happy songs, because isn't that what we're supposed to be, all happy? And it just didn't connect. And it finally fell silent, and I was just waiting and watching. I wasn't sure what to do or how to help, and one of the high school girls stood up and she began to confess that she had some jealousy of some other people in the group. And then she said, and I'm wrong, I shouldn't feel that way towards them. And after that moment, after she kind of broke the silence and broke this veil that we're just supposed to pretend that there's nothing wrong, other people began to stand up and confess things on their heart and struggles that were real to them. And so it was a good thing that the happy songs were falling flat, because that wasn't what was needed at the moment. When she stood up and admitted her sin, it felt to me the presence of God, the true Spirit of God was among us. And her confession led to others being able to say, this is what's happening and this is what's going on. So the Spirit of God showed up in a deeper, powerful way that just the happy songs could have never brought. And even though the psalm was written as an individual, I think it's easy for us then to connect in a wider range what's happening in our country. There's a cloud of darkness over it at the moment. But we do not despair. And admitting our problems, that there are things that could be different and need to be different, is not unfaithfulness. But in fact, that realization and admitting those things allow us to join Jesus in his prayer. Thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. Certainly he recognized that, and today when we recognize that, it allows us to work towards the very thing, to bring the kingdom of God on earth as it happens in heaven. And I have no problem with saying we have not reached that point. Things are good for some, but they need to be good for all. And in fact, because God is with us in our struggle, we find reason to continue. We find new ways, first to listen and then to show love to our neighbors. So here's what I'm suggesting today. First, it's okay, in fact, it is needed for us to sit with our grief and pain as a nation. It is okay to say there are things wrong from the past. But then let's let that pain and grief spur us on. Spur us on to living up to what we profess, that we are all created in the image of God, and we are all in need of his mercy and grace. And may we find ways to live that out. I'm glad you joined me today. I hope you find peace and contentment even in the midst of turmoil. And just a reminder, next week we'll be on Zoom at 6:30.